Continuing the hunter talk, I think we just finished the control warrior discussion, which agreed it's matchup, and it depends on what the situation. I guess what's on the board and what cards each player has, but it tends to come down to the final turn too, for both sides too. I feel like hunter's typically one turn from winning too. The times it loses, but okay, why don't we move on to?
I didn't get to talk about it. I
Oh,
thought what
okay,
Reynad.
go ahead.
I don't think it's wrong. Sometimes the Warriors can have a aggressive matchup against them, and they're the aggressor. But I think that the Warrior is the definition of ability to negate their hero ability, and your goal is to just survive until the late game. Oftentimes, I've spoken with them on the board strategy or one minion at most, and then when you look at that deck list up there, most of the hunters can put up ones with charges, and then you make a lot of their cards useless.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Strategy works. If you don't, you lose to freezing trap. So it's like you lose to freezing trap bow because you can't act like if you let bow, which is usually enough to win. Like it's a matchup that definitely favors the warrior deck, I think. But it's not as lopsided as some people would think. Yeah, like in my opinion, it depends on how both players play it, honestly. That's all it really comes down to. It depends on the draws. I mean, I agree with that. Sometimes the warrior is definitely the control deck. If you draw Ragnaros, you like never need to attack, and that's unless they hunters.
Well, I mean, you have hunters. You have two hunters. Some kind of targets for that before Ragnaros comes out, because I agree. Rag is probably the best source of damage, right? For not setting off a trap. Doesn't happen well. I've tried playing passive, and I've had a lot less success playing passive than aggressive. So, but I understand the logic though to Trump in that. I don't know. It's always difficult to make it work.
Yeah, the thing is, there's like two people on ladder playing this version of Hunter. So for the most versions, like Wolf Riders, Arcane Golems, and stuff, that's like the Hunter deck you see 90% of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Moving.
true. I will say that at least on the Europe server, of it being this deck is seeing the two Stone Tusk 4 and then not seeing Animal Companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Let's moving on to the next matchup. Let's talk Warlock. Let's talk about the Warlock matchup. Trump, you want to start us off? And I guess you can. I mean, there's multiple variations of Warlock decks, right? So maybe talk. Starting off with. Let's start out with Handlock.
Okay. The Handlock and top them up, but once you get your health low, then the hero ability of the Hunter plus some kill commands can take you down.
Mm-hmm.
You basically play the Handlock deck as you would against any aggressive deck, I'd say. And you want to, and Moral Coil is a really good card. And
Okay.
try to wear out the storm, get him with Giant Slayer.
Okay. Right now, we'll get your opinion on Handlock first.
You need to mulligan aggressively for a Molten Giant and kill them on turn 6, basically. It's the only way you can win. It's one of the more lopsided matchups on ladder. I think it's like maybe 28. It's probably worse than 2080. It's probably like 90-10 in favor of Huntley play cash games at 10-1 odds from the Hunter side.
Oh shit.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Wow,
I
that
will
says
do
a
that.
lot, actually.
10-1?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ten.
If you draw double Molten Giant though, and the Hunter deck gets a sloppy draw, I've seen it happen to where turn 5 or 4 you can go double Molten Giant Sunfear, and you can't ever beat that deck. And it's like, yeah, I've never seen the game last past turn 8 in that matchup.
Trump,
That's
you
how long it takes
obviously.
for Hunter to kill them.
I mean, it's bad, but it's not 10-1. I'm willing to put the money where
Oh,
my
here
mouth
we
is. I'll
go.
play you 10-1
Cash
as a
games
Warlock
between
set.
Trump and Reynad coming soon.
Can't do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
love to do it off stream though. Yeah, I might be wrong about it. I don't know. I don't think I am though.
Oh, that's a bummer. I didn't know.
Technically different. I mean, well, in any big organization, you can't make legal mad. There's no reason to take the risk for them.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But okay, 10-1. Might have the two of you guys. But wow, I didn't think it was that much of a landslide. But
It's
okay,
not that bad. I
okay.
mean, I mean,
How
from
do you
my
kill the Hunter?
opinion, is 10-1.
You don't think any matchups 10-1?
No.
I don't know. Hunter's a really polarizing deck. I think it's definitely a lopsided matchup. Druid versus Handlock is a little closer.
Oh, definitely closer.
I think that might be the most lopsided matchup on ladder. I don't Rogue versus Hunter. That's like equally lopsided, I think, as Handlock. But yeah, I don't know.
Guys play like maybe a series of, I don't know, 20 or something, and see what the stats come up with there. But okay, let's talk about the zoo deck. Or how should you play the Zoo deck against the Hunter?
You're the aggressor, and yet you want to be afraid not to put too much stuff. Play it aggressive, but play it smart is the general tidbit.
Okay, Reynad?
Um, from the Zudek side, you want to mulligan aggressively into Defender Vargas because any game you win is going to involve that card, or like a really bad draw from the Hunter deck. If you're playing against the old Hunter decks with cards like Animal Companion that Zoo can ignore, or Soulfire, Shield Bearer or Voidwalker doesn't care about, Argent Squire doesn't care about, then like the Zoo deck is definitely going to be favored. If you're playing this deck, which is nothing but card draw into explosive traps and unleash the hounds, like I think that even if it's slight, it's probably like 60-40 in my opinion in favor of Hunter. Because like the 4 cards that matter, which are the 2 unleash and the 2 explosive traps, you just overextend with unnecessary creatures, and yeah, keep Voidwalker and Defender Vargas as like the 2 most.
I guess variation of Warlock, which is the Murloc. How does the Murloc deck stack up against the Hunter deck in your experience, Trump?
Um,
A weird matchup, actually. I don't have much experience with that one.
yeah, I think it's somewhat similar, different. I'll let Reynad explain this one.
Okay,
I
Reynad.
mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's the Zoo matchup, except the Murloc deck is like more it's like more reliant on overextending into Unleash, so it's standalone big threats. And their creatures generally have less ass, so Explosive Trap is way better.
Hmm.
Yeah, sometimes they draw that guy and that card doesn't do as much, but if you Explosive Trap their stuff down to 1 health, then they get swept by Unleash, so it's still worth it.
Are more committing to putting a lot of guys, which makes the doggy so much better.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Let's see. Moving on. Next.
Deck is unfavored against the Hunter. I think it is closer to even, and if you didn't say that it was favored, I would even argue.
I used to think the Zoo was favored when I played it from the Zoo side, but as the Hunter decks improved, I think it got worse and well against this cards that much more often. I have a hard time seeing a situation where the Zoo deck can beat 2 of those cards. Like if you draw 1 Unleash, 1 Explode. But it depends on like the build, the draw, and the build of both decks. I think it's close, but I definitely think Hunter's favored just because just against like Zoo's general strategy, your cards are so good. Like they want dudes, and Explosive Trap and Unleash punish that. And Hunter also has inevitability, so you can't slow play it.
Yeah. That steady shot just keeps working. To see Miracle, I think Rogue these days. There's some board control type of mid tempo rogues out there too. But Trump, what do you think? The Rogue matchup.
Oh, well, Rogue matchup is pretty bad because they the only way you can. Well, I'm going to say that I will say that I think it's slightly less bad than some people think because use the hero ability. You're going to take the damage twice, and that does suck, but at least you managed to spend that something. It plays well, and there are a lot of different ways. If you're playing the Miracle Rogue, then you're just playing your own game, and you hope that you get a turn faster or 2 turns faster, depending on how good your draw is. And if you're playing the aggro rogue deck, then it's similar to Zoo.
Okay. I mean, the traps are so devastating against like a Leroy type of combo. I think. I don't know. Reynad, what do you think of that?
As if you actually look at this like Zoo deck, or if you look at the Hunter deck that I've listed, it plays like 2 creatures that you can hero power. It plays Leper Gnome and Loot Hoarder, both of which I could not care less if they get hero powered. Because Leper Gnome turns into a 1 mana Mind Blast, and Loot Hoarder is like 2 damage draw card. Like that's both of those outcomes are very good. So the hero power is irrelevant. All the removals are relevant, and you just like hero power them, hero power them, hero power them. They play gadgets and you play Freezing Trap. Like I think it's enough against Miracle Rogue to really say. All I know is that I've never lost to it with Hunter on ladder this season. In the 20 or so games I played, important things is like if you're playing Fair Rogue, I think you might have like a better chance. It really depends, just like how aggressive of a draw you have. The more aggressive the draw, Explosive Trap, so you can just like kill them with Leroy and Cold Bloods really early. But yeah, I do think Hunter's favorite. I'm not exactly sure how much, but yeah, it's like not a deck that you see that much on ladder, so it's really tough to say.